Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. So I go by the Blue Light Oracle and welcome to episode 3 for the RPG journey or RPG life. So today we're going to pick piles, so another 4 piles. This is going to be another long one. I feel like these are much longer than my more serious side of life kind of readings, but my guides seem to be more excited about these, honestly. So 4 piles, this is the Spirit Warrior deck, and this time round it is from years, well, I've decided to do it from teenage years, so exactly how we see teenagers from 13 to 19. So we're going to do 13 to 19. So we've got pile 1. Pile 2. Pile 3. And here's pile 4. So I'll introduce you to these cards. I'm just going to turn on the autofocus. So for pile number 1, here is your card. And I believe this is Frankincense, so I'll have a quick look. Yes, it is. With the main message of find what works for you. The little message here is inhale deeply, live and love the same way. Okay. So pile number 2. Have a look at this one, but this is your card. This is Trāṭaka, which is candle meditation, with the message be still. And the message here is there is only this present moment. Very true. Okay, pile number 3. You have the Tree of Life, with the message continue your spiritual path. And the message down below is journey from the conscious to the unconscious worlds. Here is your card. Okay, and pile number 4. This is Dandelion Leaf and Root Tea. Practice acceptance. The message here is dance among the wildflowers. Okay, so feel free to meditate on this or pick whichever one's calling to you. We have 4 piles here, and this will be a continuation from episode 1 and 2. So if you haven't watched those ones, feel free to click on my channel and go to the playlist. I have put them all into one playlist, and yeah, I will see you in your reading. If you want to stick around, feel free to stay here because I'll be doing the shuffling process and I'll be talking you through how I'm going to do that today. Hello everyone, welcome to the shuffling process. So today we're going to be doing the shuffling process in 2 parts, just like the last episode. The first part is going to be around spiritual path, knowledge path, kind of skill path, and then the second section will be broken into connections, potentially romantic connections as you are getting into your teenage years, and also just relationships with animals and other people in your life. Okay, so this first one will be for your learning life, and what kind of archetype will you be looking at to be in this particular pile? Got 1 here, next is 2. Okay. I know it's this one for 3. Okay. Yeah, this one will be interesting because we're getting into teenage years, so there's lots of mixed emotions, lots of, I feel like, challenges, of course, but so much opportunity, so many new experiences. No longer going to be wrapped up or covered, let's say. You're no longer helicoptered, I want to say. Although some of the last readings weren't like that anyway, so maybe it's a continuation of something fresh, something new. Okay. Yeah, this feels like more just like a journey. Maybe not this one. Trying to pull out a card and didn't want to come out. That one almost flipped out. Okay, and this one. Now the deck is calling me, so I'm going to add another one to this one. Yeah. This is going to be a very long, this is going to be a very long reading, for sure. Okay, and lastly, the tarot cards. I think just 2 will be enough for this one. Oh, we've got 2 there. So 2 for pile 2. Okay. Got these 2. Okay, so I'm going to cut. It's going to just put these down the bottom and then I'm going to do the next section. Okay, so now it's time to do the connections, whether that's romantic or just general connections with new people in your life, friends, family, the conditions around you, that kind of thing. But this is all about connections. So we'll see what kind of archetype's going to come through for each pile. Okay. This one's going to be quite interesting, I feel. Like, of course they're always interesting, but teenage years, you go through so many different emotions and changes, and when it comes to connections, they can shift and change so easily. And so quickly. We lose friends, we make new friends, we find new people to hang out with. Although this is a fantasy kind of reading, it still feels like that importance is there. already. I can just feel it. Okay, I feel like 2 is coming up for that one, so we'll take those 2. Interesting. Alright, let's see. I really like the Sacred Destiny deck. Kind of gives you a really good picture of how things are very simply. I can feel already there's going to be some kind of healing when it comes to connections. Healing from the past readings. Or at least some kind of new choices being made. It is odd getting like hints and stuff with these readings because, like I said, my guides really do get invested in this. Like they're more keen on doing things from here than they are, another one for here, than they are from the more serious reads that I do. The more serious pick piles. Maybe because they can just have fun. But I do feel like there's always opportunities for them to share a little bit of a message for some people. It's going to relate to some people's real lives, which is always really interesting. And while I do this, I haven't actually watched my second episode myself yet, so I'll be doing that before I post this one. Just been a bit busy. Okay. And lastly, 2 from here as well, so whatever needs to come through for these piles in regards to connections. Oh, okay. Well, maybe this is going to help some of you pick pile 3, but you got the 4 of Pentacles coming out when it comes to connections and relationships. Just flipped up with a little pig. Okay. Alright, so feel free to go into the below description, click on your pile, but that's it for the shuffling process and I'll see you in your reading. Take care. Hello pile number 1, so you have chosen today the Frankincense. Okay, so like I said in the shuffling, I've split the piles into 2 sections. So this one's going to be the love and connections. I'll just move that up here. And for you, this one is going to be education, spiritual path, kind of journey. All right, let's take a look at your cards. So your archetype, you have the artist. Very interesting. Artist has the light attributes of expressing a dimension of life that is just beyond the 5 senses, inspiring others to see life symbolically. The shadow attribute is using talent as an excuse to mistreat others, posing as the starving artist to elicit pity. Very interesting. You also have spirit of place. All right, we've got frankincense with like this idea of another dimension and spirit of place. So I do feel like this is definitely why spirit journey or path was kind of, or spiritual path was coming through before I even started doing the reading. I knew that was something to put into this kind of message. You also have the Orion activation, supernova, recreation, renewal, rebirth by light. You also have Bridget, inner strength, Move back to wholeness. Recognize that you have the power. You also have Binah, which is the left eye of knowledge. That's of the tree of life. You have the flower of life, inspiration, or in dreams. You have the hanged man, which talks about enlightenment. And finishing your reading, you have the moon. Sorry, I just had to cut because there was some noise outside. It was just my cat scratching, dropping some stuff off the table, as usual cats do. So, what do I see for you, pile number 1? Very interesting. We've got the frankincense, which just feels like something that, you know, purifies spiritually. We have the flower of life. We're talking about inspiration or in dreams, but the flower of life to me also is like protection. Can be used for protection. We've got the hanged man with the aura around his head, which just makes me think of enlightenment, going within to get enlightenment or understand a situation. But remember, this is your path in education. We have the Orion activation with supernova. That feels like a huge change, a huge shift. And I feel like a huge shift in you is exactly what's happening. So maybe even regardless of what happened growing up, is when you're infant and then child years, this is talking about really changing. And that makes sense with being a teenager, but I feel like this is more than that with your journey. You are going through like some kind of spiritual change. You are in a place now where you can express your spiritual desires, let's say, your spiritual dreams. Your education is going to have something to do with like the cosmos, I want to say. Even with Binah coming out with the left eye, knowledge, it's like you are being educated, maybe not in a way that we would see it, like going through high school, that kind of thing. This is more of like a structured, cultivated kind of knowledge from elders and older people, wiser older women and men, or just women, just people in general. They're there to really sit with you and educate you on everything that you need to know. But stuff that you can't see or that's tangible, things that are more faith-based and spiritual. And through whatever's happened in your past, I feel like this is a time to move beyond that. Move beyond any fears or regrets or anger that you have towards people from the past or even yourself, and to really start owning who you are, centering yourself, grounding yourself. This is a very spiritual journey, so you're learning a lot about symbols. Oh, okay, so I'm getting like all sorts of kind of rituals as well with the moon. It feels very like mystic, like a mystic. You're becoming like a mystic, a sage or a mystic is what I'm getting. You're really opening up from the inside out. So what your really desires, you're going through a huge amount of emotional change as well. Like things are coming up that you might have wanted to hold down, and people sometimes do hold down all the way up until they're much older and then release it. This is kind of doing it now while you're going through, let's say, puberty as well, and then also through the many years of changes and that kind of thing. But I don't know if there's too many people around you that are also being educated. We'll see with your connections pile, but it feels like there's not as many. It's a very select kind of person or group. For you, pile number 4, you're kind of like picked out due to potential, or you've even stumbled across this place where you've been taken in. So it's either been by luck or by selection, but regardless, you're here and you're learning now. It's really opening you up so you can learn this stuff. It's not something that you can just learn to hide from the world, I want to say, or to hide your inner feelings from the world. It's more of you have to be cracked open so that you can release all this energy or feel everything that's coming up. But you are in a safe place. I feel like it's natural but also cosmic. So I do think that not cosmology, going out at night and looking at the stars and being taught that kind of constellations and that kind of thing is really important. Astrology, I guess you could say, is important in this life, but also earth magic and earth, like grounding knowledge, symbols, that kind of thing is really important in this. There's a huge amount of education, but it's an education through emotions and passions more than through sitting there reading a book. There's bits of that, but it's more than that. It's kind of like, imagine school being half art and then half everything else. That's kind of how it's feeling. But that is exactly what I see for you in regards to your knowledge and education and skills. So you are learning a huge amount of skills, but it's like interpersonal skills so that you can be really know who you are and be strong, and then start using that to get what you want in the future or to move towards your dreams, I want to say. So this could go yet again either way, but I do feel like this is mostly in the light. And now we'll have a look at your connections and relationship cards. All right, so pile number 1, let's get into the relationship and connection cards. So again, still got the frankincense. So we've got the student card. This is interesting. It didn't come up in education, but it made sense as well because it was very specific. So student, humility and devotion to the knowledge, openness to lifelong learning. The shadow attribute is arrogance in the pursuit of destructive knowledge, unwillingness to translate knowledge into action. This is very interesting with regards to your education or knowledge side or skills from the last section of this reading. So now we've got student. It's kind of telling you more about you as well, a little bit. So we have mystery. This makes a lot of sense. We've got a lot of black too already coming out. But you got the cat with mystery. So yeah, the stuff that you're learning is very select for sure. You have patience right next to the student. That makes sense because I feel like while you're going through your teenage years, everyone's going to jump into their like best and their worst kind of sides coming out. And I feel like this is something that you're kind of learning. Even though this is about relationships, I feel like it's still a carry on from the last section as well. So we do have receive. This usually talks about accepting help or a gift or something like that, to have that ebb and flow when it comes to giving and receiving. And so generally you might be feeling like you're giving a lot when it comes to connections, but maybe also not taking on the receiving the love and hope and connections as well, the care from the connections. So that's interesting. Okay, so we have the Page of Cups. Makes a lot of sense because this is about sometimes acting childish, but also new love, new connections, that kind of thing. You have the Temperance card, finding balance with study, knowledge, and also connections. So there are people there. In the last section, I did say there were people, but it didn't seem like a lot, and that still feels true. You also have the King of Pentacles. Yeah, so while there's like new romantic connections or maybe dating when you're in your mid to late kind of teens, there's also a very strong masculine presence here too. Maybe this is one of the teachers because it looks like he's working on something. So someone very close to you. There's also symbols here. Well, they are the pentacle symbols, but I feel like, yeah, there's some strong connection. So you have the Lovers card right under the Page of Cups. There are new romantic connections. Maybe you're still learning, let's say, but I will say this person, I don't know if you're going to be still with them in the next piles, but you definitely meet them maybe when you're like 15, 16, and they're there for a couple of years or a few years at least with this kind of connection. But yeah, definitely do have some kind of love connection. I will say here as well, if you have your family life, you've got like a mentor, teacher like very strong teacher. There's also a lot of balance within like home life as well. You also have the Queen of Wands. Yeah, this feels like mothering energy. This doesn't feel like the partner though. This feels like, yeah, so very strong connection with family. So while you might be very busy at your schooling, you still have some connection. I don't know if it's like physical connection exactly with family. It does feel like doing some kind of alchemy or some kind of magic to communicate with family, but you are still in touch with them. It doesn't feel like they're there with you. It more feels like you've been sent to like a boarding school, for example, even though it's very different from what I see. But it's like a boarding school, let's say, and you're kind of on video call. Let's use that kind of analogy in this, although it feels like more like a crystal ball, I guess, if you want to say, but it's so different. It's kind of like putting some ingredients together, mixing it up, and then there's a mirror to talk to, or like a reflection to talk to your family with. And I feel like that's who's giving you strength a lot of the time, is this Queen of Wands energy. But I do feel like the Lover is also teaching you about patience and receiving this person. It is a good connection for sure. It's a very strong connection. So I want to say that even by 19, you're probably still with them. You either met them like 15, 16, and your connection's quite strong. There's not a lot of people there. There's not a lot of people in your schooling, but this person, I will say he, she, they, whoever, has a very good influence on you and has your best interests at heart. I will say also there are some interesting energy around this reading, whether that's the energy from other people at the school or teacher, something like that, but I do feel like it is this mentor. There's some kind of fascination with this mentor, whether they're very skilled at what they do, and that kind of inspires you to be better, because your connection card, we got the Student. We didn't get it in the actual education, but it's like you're definitely learning from your schooling, but you're also learning a lot, like a huge amount, from your love connections, from your family connections, how you're keeping in touch with them, and also from this mentor, this kind of high teacher. Maybe it's like the principal or something like that, but you're learning a huge amount of knowledge from it's like most of the cards relate to people more than what you're learning, but that is the learning. It's like interpersonal skills, communication, all that kind of like love, learning how to use your words, everything like that. Giving and receiving. Learning to receive is really interesting, because for some people it is very hard. They love giving, they don't like getting, and so that can be quite hard for them for sure. I will say with the cat, I do feel like there is some kind of, I don't know if exactly a cat, but there's some kind of magical creature within the school, and I feel like you have a good connection with it. I don't know what it is. It looks like a little mini chimera, or like a big otter, beaver, something like that. It looks interesting anyway. But that's what I kind of see for this one. So this is your connections coming into your teenage years. I feel like this is a very calm pile compared to what I feel like some of the other piles might bring through. But yeah, lots of learning with relationships, and a lot of learning knowledge. So you've got a whole lot of learning. So I'm going to be very interested to see how this progresses for you, pile number 1. But that is your reading today. So thank you very much for being here. Feel free to give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you like the content, and also so you don't miss out on any more of these readings. There will be a playlist that I will add this to. So if you've missed any of the other ones, please go back and watch some of those just to see how the progression has come through. But otherwise, have a good day. Hello, pile number 2. So today you have chosen Trāṭaka, which is the candle meditation card. Interesting one. So this is split into 2 sections. So here is your connections, love connections, relationship with family, friends, people in your life. And here we've got the education and you. So education, spiritual path, that kind of thing. Okay, so your first card, you've got the Knight. Very interesting. So this talks about in the light, loyal, romance, and chivalry, a love of honor. And in the shadow, it talks about allegiance to a destructive ruler or principle, romantic delusions. Hey, interesting. You also have Into the Unknown. You also have High Heart Activation, dropping shields, divine love, your heart is healed. You have Joan of Arc with the voice of truth. Stand strong, focus on your purpose, release the fears of persecution and speak your truth. So speak from the heart. Like, we've got like a very chivalrous kind of figure too with the knight here. Very interesting. You have Liliel with Angel of Night. You have the Venusians with romance, soulmates, and empathy. Very interesting skills. Very interesting learnings. You have the Eight of Wands. This feels like a lot of ideas coming through, like sparks of inspiration. And you also have the King of Wands. So I'm just going to move this card out of the way a bit so the light's not on it. Okay, so what do I see for you, pile number 2? This is in regards to your spiritual path, your journey. I feel like you are going down a more honorable path. That's kind of your ideal, let's say. The king here feels like serving. Like serving is what you do. But there's also understanding why as well. It's not like you're loyal to someone or a particular cause blindly. It's about understanding some of the stuff that's happened and realizing that what's done is done and moving on. But some of it you're still holding on to and wanting to understand, but you're not doing it because you want revenge or anything like that, or you're unhappy. You just you're trying to figure out, it's like you've gone into this kind of knight role, let's say. Your journey is very interesting. It's like you're trying to uncover what happened to either someone you enjoyed in life when you were younger, like family, friend, something like that. You're trying to uncover some kind of secret or some kind of what happened to them, what's their story, that kind of thing. So you've decided to infiltrate, let's say, or go into being a knight. It's like you're loyal to your cause, but you're also loyal to yourself. You are loyal to this person. I thought this was like a ruler, but no, this is the person, the people, that kind of energy. They could even be, might not even be just that person. There might be their strength, and then these Venusians coming up with love and romance. It feels like it's not your romantic connections. It's more of one, learning your own heart from the parents or your family or whoever these two people were that have kind of gone missing, let's say, or you're trying to understand what happened to them. Maybe they were taken, maybe they just left, and so you're trying to uncover. This is kind of like, it's almost like a little bit of infiltration, a bit of a risk with the Angel of Night and Into the Unknown. You don't know what's exactly going to happen, but you're doing it for healing. It feels like you're going to be learning a lot of knight skills, so defense, that kind of thing, attacking as well, sword play, that kind of feeling is coming through here. But I feel like you're trying to find a lost sibling, someone that you cared about, either family, friends, that kind of thing. But you're very honest and loyal to your cause and your family and this person for sure. With the Eight of Wands, it does show a lot of creative sides as well. You're learning what would be called, I guess, espionage, a little bit of that. So even though the Knight has come out, I feel like it's a lot of spy as well. I feel like the Knight came out just to show clearly how you're doing it. But Into the Unknown and the Knight, the Angel of Night, definitely shows that you're doing this because it's what you think is right. You're focusing on your cause. You're focusing on, this is going to help heal you because you'll understand what's happened. And you're going to figure out who is the culprit or who maybe have caused this kind of situation to occur. So while there's no formal education, I don't think you've gone into a like university or anything like that, but you've kind of been conscripted quite young. And so you've kind of gone through the earlier stages. Maybe that's where this has occurred, but I feel like it was before this has even happened. So you've kind of gone into, I don't know exactly what this is, but maybe you've just like gone and cleaned the swords or the armor or something like that. You go in and do that to survive. And then with that kind of play along, when you've gotten to a certain age, maybe it's only like a year or two later, you've gotten into becoming conscripted into being a knight or at least a warrior of some sort, and then build your way up so that you can get knowledge. This is all for knowledge. It's not like you're doing it just as a job. You have a clear purpose in life. And it's all about, it all surrounds around heart and love and care of some of the people that have gone missing or that you like. I feel like we'll figure it out exactly in this pile. But for now, lots of learning about who you are and your integrity. It's not like you're still doing the job correctly and right, but you're kind of using it in a way to help you with other things in life. And I feel like that's what we all do, right? We all work not because that job is like our number one. Maybe it is, and that's great, but not for everybody. We're doing it so that we can do other stuff on the side. We can use the money to live our lives the way we want to, and that's how this kind of feels. It's like you're doing it to not just earn the money to live. At the start, I feel like you are, but then once you get into this kind of warrior knight kind of position, then you have the ability to move from there. Then you have the ability to uncover. You have more access to papers, to registers, that kind of thing, to be able to figure out what's happened to family or something like that. Batman kind of story, you know, how he's trying to uncover what happened to his family. It's kind of similar to that. We'll see what comes through in this one. But that is the first section of your video, pile number 2. So this is the knowledge. So lots of interesting knowledge here, but we'll have a look at your connections coming up next. Hello again, pile number 2. So this is the second part of your story. So this is the connections, either romantic, coming into your later teen years, or even just family, friends, other people in your life. Oh, interesting. So you have gossip. See, I knew there was a reason why I was feeling like you were trying to uncover some truth. And we got gossip, which makes sense because it's like understanding. So the light attribute is awakens consideration for feelings of others, honoring trust, which you did have that honor, that speaking your truth with Joan of Arc and the Knight. And the shadow attribute is thrives on power, passing on private or secret information, betraying confidence. I feel like you are dipping into the shadow part, but not to betray confidence. It's more to understand what's happened. I feel like there's a mix of that, so very interesting. You also have the love card with the seahorse. Yeah, this makes sense. This could be a connection, but it also, I feel like it's going to be connection also for your kind of purpose and why you've picked this kind of role or this knowledge, this path. You have openness. I feel like that's how you're able to get the information. You're very personable and people like you. So you have serenity. Okay, so you also have the Two of Cups coming through. Yeah, you have found some kind of connection, some kind of person, either that's in the role that you are or someone that you've met in general. I feel like, I know this is just a fun reading, but I feel like for some of you, it's another night. And then for others, it's someone you've met like at a bar or something like that. You also have the Emperor. You have the High Priestess. Yeah, you're getting the knowledge. You know who you are. You're very confident and strong. And you have the Hermit. So a lot of mages coming out here too. I feel like you are going to be successful with finding this person, finding what happened, uncovering the secrets, which will help you uncover your heart and your serenity, keep you at peace. But you definitely have a very clear goal. with regards to your connection, I do feel like you've found someone in the bar or like a tavern, I want to say. It looks like a tavern, like a night, like, you know, medieval type tavern. You've met someone quite early on. Maybe they caught your eye early on. Maybe they're older, a little bit older, like a more senior, but not like, I don't think they're like they're elderly and you're like a teenager, nothing like that. But maybe someone's caught your eye quite young on, and then once you've come of age, you're kind of moving in to getting to know them. They're seeing your strength, which is like, we have like a very strong masculine figure, a very strong feminine figure, and also the hermit coming through with the rhino. It's just that feels like very strong, thick-skinned kind of character, but also someone that knows who they are. They've gone within, they know who they are, they're very strong. This is like someone that you really want to know. They've got the chessboard, so it's like you're not really, I feel like you have really high integrity for what you're doing, but at some stage you're kind of doing some things that you're probably not supposed to, reading some documents that maybe you have access to, but it's like, why are you looking at this? Because now the Trāṭaka is coming out here with the kind of third eye opening. It's like full understanding. Openness is about understanding too, being clear with what you want to yourself and to this other person. I feel like you can trust them fully. And serenity is talking about trusting yourself, or having a strong relationship with yourself is really how you've moved through life. So your connection really is with self and also this other person that you've met. There's a lot of like, I feel like this is you, the intuition, the kind of strong feminine figure, but also the other person has a strong feminine figure too. You've got a strong masculine, feminine, like very balanced. But this is what I see. So your connections, what's really important is figuring out what's happened to family. You're kind of moving along with that. You're going to uncover it for sure. If you haven't already, it's like you've kind of lined things up to finish this off. And then we'll see what happens in your early adult years for sure. But it hasn't been super easy. It hasn't been super easy along the way. I feel like I've uncovered a few things. And now it's time to release that and then move on, especially with this great person that you've met as well. So that's what I see for you, pile number 2. So you've met someone in this kind of relationship connection. I feel like you know who you are. Maybe there's not a lot of family being called into this, not a lot of friends. You kind of get along with everyone, but you keep stuff to yourself because you kind of have a clear mission to see what's happened to these people. But I feel like you might have already done that with some of them, because it's just very close to the end. You've kind of uncovered and you've become enlightened with whatever's happened. I just want to pull maybe a couple more cards because I feel like there's more to it than this. So I just want to see, has pile number 2 figured out what's happened to their family, and also, if we can, what has happened. So I feel like this will tell us. And then what has happened to the person they were looking for. Okay. So you've got the Queen of Discs coming out. It's very interesting. It's like there's a blessing in knowing and also not knowing. So I feel like you have uncovered enough information to know what's happened. So we'll see. Yeah, it's been a long road for sure. This looks like the same person as well. So interesting, we've got the 9 of Wands and the Princess of Discs. The Princess of Discs is really interesting in this one. It's kind of like a new beginning, but I do feel like this is also very ethereal and this feels like spirit. So I feel like you've uncovered exactly what you needed to know, but I can't really tell if they've either passed or they've gone, but whatever it is, you've moved on from it. This is finished. This kind of not really obsession, but your task near the end, once you're like 19, at the end of this journey, this section of your life, you've kind of figured out what's happened, whether they left on purpose. It hasn't been super easy, but you've come to like some kind of close end, and this is it. It's time to start anew. That's kind of how it's feeling. It's like, okay, this is time to start again. So very interesting. So you have come to the end. You have realized that knowing who you are is more important than what happened to other people. Even though you have figured out what's happened, it's like, well, you've got enough information. You don't know exactly where they are, if they're still alive. I feel like for some, they've passed. For some, they're still around, but they're not in contact with you. Which might be quite hard, because I don't think they were bad. It was just, there's probably more of a story there. So maybe we'll see for some of you with the next pick pile next week when this continues. But yeah, very interesting. But yeah, you figured it out, which is nice. And now it's time to focus on this love connection that you have. So much romance in these piles right now. With the first two piles, there's lots of romance popping up. But anyway, that's exactly what I see. So thank you very much for being here, pile number 2. Feel free to give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed, or subscribe if you want to see more of the content. Other than that, thank you very much for being here. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video. Hi, pile number 3. So today you have chosen the Tree of Life. So I've split this up into 2 sections. So the first section is going to be in regards to your journey, your spiritual path, your knowledge, your skills, that kind of thing through 13 to 19. And here's going to be your love connections, your partners, if you have a partner, or if your family or friends, or some kind of figures in your life that are important to mention. All right, let's have a look. So you've got the Femme Fatale card. This talks about, highlights the erotic energy of the feminine, opens your heart when your dependency is rejected. Shadow attribute is inappropriate use of sensuality, attachment to money and power. Interesting. Coming out with the Tree of Life, talking about continuous spiritual path. It looks like there's 2 sides to that. So you have the Coming Apart card. So comes some kind of shift or change, like rebirth, with going to this kind of shift. It's like something's hasn't worked, and it's splitting your energy, let's say. So you have Venusian Galactic Council, Star Beings Guide, Answer the Call, Time to Shine. Interesting. Look how bright that card is. You also have Gaia with Earth Connection. Very powerful figures coming through. Very powerful cards. Like this card, Time to Shine, is like a kind of rebirth. Femme Fatale is a very strong feminine energy. Gaia, the Earth Mother, talking about Earth connections. Be mindful of the planet. Come back to Earth. Stay grounded. Coming Apart. Yeah, there's been a lot of changes and shifts in your life for sure. So you've got Da'at, Null with Emptiness. This is very interesting. It's not really part. It's like there's the Tree of Life and everything else that isn't there, but isn't seen. Is kind of the emptiness. A lot of difficulties, coming apart and emptiness. You have the Golden Ratio with Beauty, Nature, and Patterns. Very interesting, because we can see the Flower of Life in the background here with patterns right next to nature as well. Okay, and we have the 7 of Wands. This is not an easy journey. You also have the Chariot card. So what do I see for your path and knowledge? I see a lot of challenges, a lot of difficulty, a lot of attachment to things that haven't served you in the past, and now things are changing up. Things are drastically changing. I feel like this is, with this card coming out, maybe you do follow a specific spiritual path, but it's more about this is your spiritual path, regardless if you know you're on a spiritual journey or not. You have a very clear path. And all these challenges that have come through with the emptiness, the Seven of Wands, having to fight for who you are, having to fight for your position, wherever that may be, I do feel like you are kind of undercover, or you kind of do exactly what you want to get what you want, but it doesn't always work out. However, those learnings are very key to your journey. Answer the Call just sounds like you are supposed to know you are on the journey. I feel like at the start though you didn't know, let's be honest, you're 13. But then as you grow older, you're like coming into some kind of spiritual understanding. And maybe that is a connection with nature. I do feel like though sacred geometry for some reason is very important. Numerology, something like that. Maybe you have a very different belief system to everyone else, and you're having to fight for that position. But with the Chariot coming out, you end up being on the right path near the end of this, like the 19 years. At the start though, there was a lot of loss. I feel like something was lost. The coming apart just feels like something happened, whereas either you were torn away from connections, family, out of your city, whatever, something changed, and it kind of brought on this spiritual understanding, because the Da'at is sitting there in kind of lotus position as well. The figure looks like it's in lotus position in the sky, and then the Venusian Council is very bright, so it's coming out of this kind of focusing on just getting what you need to survive, to understanding your place in the universe, but also being very connected with the earth. It's not about being up in your higher chakras the whole time, but it has caused some kind of adversity near the end as well, but you're still on that journey, you're still going, you're still fighting for what you think is right. So what kind of learnings are you getting? I feel like this is very spiritual sided more than education. There's no schooling. I don't feel like that is important, but I do feel like there is, we'll see, but there is someone who's teaching you these. They're teaching you kind of understanding symbols and place in the universe, whether you're talking to spirit guides or you have someone there who's helping you, we'll see. But that is exactly what I see in this first section. So stick around for your next section, pile number 3, because that is going to be in regards to your connections, love connections, relationships, that kind of thing in general. Okay, pile number 3. So this is going to be your relationships. So you have Detective with, on the light attribute, great power of observation and intuition, desire to seek out truth. The shadow attribute is voyeurism, falsifying information. Very interesting. Considering you're in your like spiritual kind of journey, I feel like this makes sense with the start, especially the shadow part, falsifying information. You kind of did whatever it took to get to where you were in the end of your teens. This one had 2 cards from here. So you have Pig with Abundance. Yeah, I feel like you got exactly what you wanted very early on in your teens. And then you have Grace. I feel like this is the shift. So you have taking risks. Okay, interesting. You have You Are Not Alone. Like I was saying in the last reading, we'll find out what kind of connections you were getting. But yeah, this was like a spiritual path, and You Are Not Alone makes sense because now it does feel like it was a spiritual connection, some kind of entity, let's say, a spirit guide that was guiding you near the last kind of section of your teens. So you have the Queen of Wands, very interesting queen. You also have the Page of Wands. A lot of creation, a lot of understanding for sure. So you have the Four of Pentacles. And you have the Ace of Swords. Yeah, this makes sense. The Page and the Ace of Swords make a lot of sense for near the end of your teen kind of years, let's say. So what do I see exactly for you, pile number 3, with regards to connections? I do feel like someone with this kind of Queen of Wands figure, this is someone that you kind of admire, let's say, or you're working with near the end. So maybe 18, 19, you've met them, and you're like, this is an interesting figure or an interesting person. There's like a couple of people. It's like you're kind of forming a group to go on a journey. Because this little pig has got what he's got. He's taken that and he's got his luggage and he's off. And then the Ace of Swords is like a new journey as well. It feels like that. So you've kind of got a little... It kind of reminds me of like, this is the RPG style reading, but it does remind me of an RPG and kind of selecting your crew before going on a mission. It feels like that. But I feel like this potential could turn into something more, like a romantic connection. But regardless, even if it doesn't, it feels like there's a huge amount of respect for each other. But I feel like you're guided to this. You're guided to these people. You're guided in some form. There's not a lot of talk about any other connections, like family, friends, that kind of thing. Well, this group of people does feel like friendship for sure. But yeah, at the start of this, the start of your connections, it's like you're almost, once you went through the hardship, you're kind of given the blessing, let's say, of a good amount of interesting people. Great power of observation, intuition. Yeah, you definitely learned that, and you understand now. Maybe you went through some kind of awakening in some way. There's a lot of risky behavior as well with taking risks, though. I feel like some of that kind of caused the hardships you went through, but that's all learning in this life now. You've kind of taken it and seen the silver lining, I guess, in the challenge. You've seen the good in the challenge, and you're picking yourself up and moving forward. So it's a very interesting teen years. I don't think there's a lot of connection that you were really worried about externally. It was all internal work. The abundance and grace almost feels both internal. So your connection is more about connecting with who you are and yourself. Now you can take risks, but more calculated. This feels mostly near the end of your teen years, let's say. So even though it says continue your spiritual journey, it's like you had no idea of what a spiritual journey was until you went through some kind of shift and change or awakening, and then you got that understanding, and now you know, and they're like being guided to the right people, and these people feel really good, actually, really interesting characters for sure. I feel like these kind of little unicorn kind of figures are actually kind of part of the crew as well. So very interesting. We'll see how your journey continues, but that is exactly what I see for you, pile number 3. So thank you very much for being here. Feel free to give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe so you don't miss any of this content. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one. Take care. Hello, pile number 4. So we have split these up. So this is going to be your relationships, your kind of connections reading. And these cards here will be your journey, your spiritual journey, your knowledge journey. Whatever comes through is going to be how I'm going to see it. So you have chosen the Dandelion Leafroot Tea. Here you go. With the message of practice acceptance. We'll see how that plays into your cards today. So you have Child Divine. The light attribute is innocence, purity, and redemption. Suggests a special connection with the divine. Very interesting. We're talking about spiritual journey, so this could definitely be part of it. Shadow attribute is an inability to defend oneself against negative forces. Okay. You have the Bone Collector. Very interesting. So this is talking about breaking cycles. Breaking old family patterns, breaking old patterns of connections that haven't really worked. So interesting with learning, because if you've learned that at a very young age, then this is going to set you up very well in life. So you have Shambhala, initiations, retreating to recharge, trusting in the process, and Dharma, right next to the Divine Child. Interesting. So you have Master Jesus with forgiveness. This talks about you are on the path of light, love, and forgiveness. Father healing is possible at this time. If it is in regards to this, it's some kind of connection with your father. that has the cycle has been broken, and you're either at some understanding, either cutting out your loss, we'll see in this pile. But there's that, and also forgiveness of oneself as well. You're on a path of light, which makes sense with the divine child. It's like you're learning a lot about spirituality as well, so it's very similar to another pile. So you have Gabrielle with the message of Angel of Harold, sorry. Very interesting, because even the picture, we'll see if I can get into shot, but even the picture here, he's like holding a kind of magical type thing within frames, like a picture. It's like something framed, or like this diamond type figure. So very interesting, very magical. There's definitely a lot of magic here. The bone collector seems like one, she's enlightened, understands, but she's also got some inner magic. Divine child, inner magic. Okay, so you also have the MIB. This has a message of stalking, intimidation, and confrontation. See how that plays into this reading. So you have the Two of Wands, making a choice, recalibrating and picking a path. And you also have the Magician. Yeah, definitely got some magic in you. Okay, so what do I see exactly in regards to your reading? Well, we do have the Child Divine talking about innocence, purity, redemption, especially with Master Jesus. It's like you are in some kind of temple, let's say, or church, or something like that, synagogue, mosque, that kind of place of worship, to be able to start really learning about breaking old cycles, breaking patterns, and learning to forgive yourself, other people, love yourself and other people. Know that you're kind of on a particular path. I will say you are some kind of, like, this is learning, so I feel like with the Two of Wands, it's just showing some kind of monk as well. Like, I feel like you can learn more magic, but you're kind of learning from within first, so you can use it on the external. But it's practicing mindfulness, especially, as part of this. What this card was about, practice acceptance, yeah, which makes a huge amount of sense with Master Jesus coming out and the Child Divine. But yeah, you're on a journey for sure. It hasn't been super easy. You're kind of breaking old cycles. We'll see with the connections, breaking old connections with with your past. Even though you're quite young, I still feel like there's some baggage already created from the past. And you have some choices for sure, but it's almost like with the MIB coming out, there are people that are kind of looking for you, which is interesting, because if you chose pile 4, I can't remember from the second episode, but from the first episode, this feels like it's in line with that. It's like you've gotten away and you've gotten into like a church or into a faith group, and you have a huge amount of power. You are the magician after all, but you're learning to quell or understand who you are first. This father figure could be like not an actual parent. It could be just like the, older masculine or older person that maybe has done you wrong or has played a bit of influence on your life, and now you're kind of shifting and moving from that. But as we get to like your late teens, I do feel like you are under some kind of surveillance, at least, or some kind of, you're being watched. I feel like that's what it is. There was I do feel like there's always a pile that's kind of been watched and taken, like, not advantage of, but just observed. And I feel like this almost is part of that. It's like you feel like you're broken away, but they have kind of planned this. This was all planned. So it's a good thing, because I feel like it's got you onto a good path. But it's almost like they're kind of, some of them I feel like are looking for you. There's someone looking for you for sure. This might be 2 different groups. There's someone looking for you for sure, and then there's some observing you, like scientists observing you, and then there's a group of people that want you back into their kind of group so they can mold you the way that they want. But I don't think that's going to happen we'll see with the next piles with episode 4. But yeah, very interesting, very interesting story, pile number 4. I don't know what it is about pile number 4, but there's always some kind of wildness about it. But very interesting to go from where you were into this like light, but there's still some kind of shadiness going on. It's given you like strength, huge amount of strength and trust in yourself. But we'll see if that's going to turn into trust for other people. Alright, so I'm going to pull out, put these away and then grab these cards and we'll have a look at your connections and how this fits in. So if you wanted to know about any knowledge or learning skills, huge amount, but you already had that in you anyway. Now you're getting like knowledge from the light more in this one, and forgiveness and acceptance and patience. So very interesting. We'll see how this goes. Okay, pile number 4. So going to have a look at your cards. So this is your connections. Whether there be a love connection or relationships, parents, that kind of thing, we'll have a look. So you've got bully. Highlights your tendency to intimidate others, helps you confront the inner fears that bully you. That feels so true with exactly what came out before. It's like the dealing with some of the darkness that was inside you, going through that kind of church or enlightenment path, light path. So the shadow attribute talks about conceals deep fears behind verbal or physical abuse. Oh yeah, maybe that is exactly what was happening, why you had to kind of have that father forgiveness or healing is available now. So you have strength, this makes sense. You also have enlightenment, yeah, going down that particular path, that journey, out of the dark and into the light makes a huge amount of sense. So you have study. So yeah, there was a lot of learning going on in this life too. Like we saw that with the knowledge, but also your interpersonal, your inner relationship with yourself, but also your relationship with others is growing, which is good because I felt like from the last section that maybe that was something that was lacking, but it's definitely not. So you have the 4 of Pentacles. You have the 4 of Wands. Yeah, very nice. You have the Queen of Cups. And you have the 9 of Cups. Very nice. You got the 9 of Cups right under. I'm just going to move this here maybe. It was right under, but I just have to move out of the light because there's some light source here. So you have the 9 of Cups with the 4 of Wands. 4 of Wands about celebration, and 9 of Cups talking about dreams coming true. I thought some kind of connection with the last section would come through with the father healing. But instead, it's picking me up to the Queen of Cups. So I do feel like this, like whether it's a masculine or feminine or neither kind of figure, it's someone who was supposed to be there for you, let's say, or supposed to be giving to you, and potentially they weren't. I do feel like there was some kind of abuse, but with the Queen of Cups coming through, I feel like this was emotional abuse, and maybe that's why the Queen of Cups come out instead of like the King of Cups. So it does feel like that kind of energy, regardless of their gender, there's some kind of healing that needed to be done, but it didn't need to be done with that person. It needs to be done within yourself so that you could move forward and, you know, follow your path, the light path. But yeah, you've definitely come through some kind of enlightenment. There's still some kind of issues, I do feel, with some of your connections and people. But I do feel like with the 4 of Wands, it does look like a wedding. I don't think it's your wedding exactly. I feel like it's understanding people by going to celebrations and cultural events. And yeah, that feels like a dream coming true. So I will say, I don't feel like you even know yet that you're being kind of followed or monitored still. But regardless, even if this was kind of planned by this group of people or by these scientists or whatever they were, you are getting exactly what you needed in life to progress. So it's going to be very interesting, pile number 4, how your process goes from here. I will say you've changed a lot from your childhood years, which there feels like there was some difficulties, but with study coming up in your relationships and connections, it does feel like your mind's changed a lot about how you think about people and connections, for sure. And that has been an enlightening moment. I will say also, with the Queen of Cups, it also feels like you're stepping into that kind of role, that kind of Queen of Cups role near the end of your teen years, because of what you've gone through. Most of all, what you've gone through has kind of now opened you up in some way so that you can radiate out the emotional feelings and how you feel, and being honest with who you are and how you feel. There's a whole lot of strength in here with your connections and how, but most of it is your strength with your connections is within you. And then that's how you radiate that kind of emotional energy outwards. So very interesting reading. Yet again, pile number 4 has some kind of wild reading. But thank you very much for being here, everyone. Appreciate you being here. If you've enjoyed, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss any more of this content. Otherwise, I will see you in the next section. Feel free to also comment. Leave me a message of how your character's going, from where did they come to where are they now, because some of them have shifted a lot, I will say, and some of them have kind of continued on this very interesting path. But thank you very much for being here, and take care of yourself.